Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this month's Breakfast with the Chamber event. This month, I'm very excited that we have Mr. Kevin Michael with us, which I'll be introducing in a few minutes, to talk about the tools and platforms to be effective virtually at home with your small businesses. So just a little bit about the Chamber. Everyone knows that the Haitian American Chamber was founded in 2005. Our mission is to really advocate for the community and to bring resources and tools to our members. So this is one of the ways that we do that. Once a month, we put together the Breakfast with the Chamber event where we invite different experts in their fields, different members of the community to come and share information with the members so that they can learn and also grow their businesses. Before we get into today's program, I'd like Katia Filippo to talk for a few minutes about one of the main events that we have per year, which is our YoPro event. Katia?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, go right ahead, Kat.
Okay. I apologize. I can't be on video. I'm driving. But thank you, Patricia and Hancock, for hosting this event this morning. Looking forward to hearing from Kevin about how to help with our small businesses and organizations, the technology. Also, I'm one of the co-hosts for the annual Top 20 Under 40 Young Professionals Awards event that's hosted by Hancock. Last week actually was the 5th annual event where we recognized 20 individuals of Haitian American descent that have excelled in their professional and as well as their community service here in South Florida. So annually, Hancock recognizes these individuals for all the work that they do in the community. We actually, this year was Hancock's 5th annual event, which topped off 100 individuals that have been recognized in South Florida. So we recognize and thank Hancock for continuing this tradition and recognizing these individuals. It's important that we continue to facilitate these type of events where we promote these young professionals and small business owners through various categories in the community. So if you guys know of any other individuals that have not already been recognized, we encourage you to join Hancock as well as to provide their information and have them involved so that we can ensure that when this takes place again next year, that they're able to participate and possibly be awarded or recognized for this recognition. I'm not sure if there's anything else we wanted to add about YoPro, but it's really just an opportunity for us to recognize these young professionals in our community through various categories. And we are so grateful that every year we have hundreds of applicants and unfortunately can only recognize 20 individuals. As well, last week we were able to have our city manager for the city of North Miami be our keynote speaker. She was also a former YoPro in 2018. So it's great to see a lot of the past recipients participate in the continued tradition. So that's really all the information about YoPro. We encourage you, if you know anyone or if you are a young professional or know of any individuals that, do really great work in our community service and are great professionals, that you encourage them to participate. Thanks, Pat.
And if you guys missed the live event, it is also posted on our Facebook page. And you'll be able to see it there. And it'll also be streamed, I believe, on Island TV this week. So, and just a quick announcement, the Chamber is also very involved with the census. We do encourage everyone to be counted. We've been going to the Haitian community, educating folks as to why it's important to be counted. We've made some custom masks. We've been giving some educational information. Just a quick reminder that the deadline to sign up and be counted would be September 30th. So just in a couple of days. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the Chamber at info@hackoff.com. So now let's turn it over to Kevin for his presentation. And before I do that, I just want to go ahead and introduce him formally and read his bio. So Kevin V. Michael serves as co-founder and CEO of Invisio, a managed IT services provider which supports the operational and strategic technology needs of small to mid-sized South Florida companies, and in particular, the real estate, K-12 education, and nonprofit sectors. Kevin is a native of Antigua. He's a University of Miami Hurricane and graduate of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. He oversees business development and client relations for the company. Kevin is involved in the local community as a member of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce, NAIOP, Urban Land Institute, and the Urban Initiatives Task Force of the Miami-Dade Beacon Council. Welcome, Kevin, and we look forward to learning a lot from you this morning as to how to be more effective virtually and online with our businesses.
Good. All right. Well, thank you very much for having me, Patricia. I really appreciate the invitation that was extended to me to be here with all of you this morning, just to share a little bit about some of the technology tools and platforms to be effective virtually. We are currently about 6 months into a global pandemic. Obviously, we have an economy that's been significantly affected by coronavirus, and small businesses are trying to figure out how do they adjust to the new normal. And if you're fortunate enough to be in a sector where you can continue to operate your business in this difficult time, digital tools are a very important part of that, right? So I just want to say that this presentation today is intended to really touch on a few things that if you're not already doing, that you should definitely consider, and also to kind of give you an overview in terms of different platforms that you might be able to incorporate into your business that you could potentially use as well. So I just want to maybe expound a bit upon the introduction that Patricia gave, and talk a little bit about myself and just share a bit more about our company, just to give you a little more context before we get deeper into this discussion. So as she mentioned, I'm originally from Antigua and Barbuda, born and raised there. So another fellow islander. At this point, I've been in Miami for almost 18 years, and having a lot of Haitian friends. I'm not currently married to a Haitian woman. I feel like an honorary Haitian, so bonjour tout le monde. I am the co-founder and CEO of Invisio and have been for the last 12 years that we've been in business. University of Miami graduate. My background is primarily in IT and software engineering, which is kind of how I got into this. Before starting the company, I worked at Motorola and Citigroup as IT software engineer, IT project manager. At this point, been in the industry for well over 20 years. The company, we're known as what is known as a managed IT services provider. And basically what that means is we serve other businesses in their technology needs, right? So that's the management and support of their technology infrastructure and platforms on a daily basis, but also we provide strategic guidance to the owners and partners and leaders of companies and organizations in terms of what their IT and technology investments should be. And so with that, we provide really 3 core services: technology support and management, what we call managed IT, infrastructure solutions. So that means if you're a business and you are seeking to, open a new location, expand, we actually provide the physical technology infrastructure, the equipment, the solutions that are necessary for you to be able to do that. And then finally, kind of unavoidable and part of what we're going to talk about today is cloud services. So quite a lot of technology is provided, via the cloud today. So essentially internet-based applications or services that many of our small businesses will access in order to conduct business on a day-to-day. We serve primarily small to mid-sized companies. So usually, as small as 5 employees up to like 100 employees. That tends to be sort of the typical client that we work with, someone who's emerging, growing, or established, who really understands that they need to outsource or partner with a technology consultant or professional in order to maximize technology for their business. And as Patricia mentioned, some of the key sectors that we work in currently are nonprofit, education, but we really touch on really all industries that are represented here in South Florida. I don't think there's an industry that we have yet to work with. And so any questions you have today about your specific industry, I should be able to address those pretty well. So let's hop into it. So today we're going to touch on a couple things. Technology. I'm going to talk briefly just right now about effective work from home environment. We'll talk about technology tools every business should use. We'll talk a little bit about managing your team culture in a pandemic, and finally keeping your company safe from online threats. So let's talk a little bit about effective work environment. I feel like I wanted to touch on this quickly, simply because a lot of people are kind of forced now to be in a situation where they're virtual or working from home. And what I found is, maybe the first few months of the pandemic, it was relatively okay for you to sit at your desk with a laptop, maybe at your kitchen table with a laptop. And that was the way that you started out. But as time goes on, that becomes very uncomfortable, right? So, if you're going to be in this situation working from home for an extended period of time, and we really don't know when the pandemic is going to end, I would recommend that you get a more, professional work setup, so that you can be effective on a day-to-day. And so a couple of things are very important here. So obviously getting an ergonomic desk and chair, something that you can sit at comfortably, where you can have a webcam that is at the appropriate height so that you can communicate well with others, having good lighting while you're doing that. And then also making sure that if you need to be more effective, that you might want to incorporate like a dual monitor, a docking station. So personally, since this pandemic hit, I had to move into the second bedroom of my house and took a desk from my office and have been set up here for the last 5 or 6 months. And so this is important in establishing a good work environment, because you're going to be sitting on conference calls for extended periods of time, lots of Zoom meetings, which I'll touch on later. And you just want to make sure that you're comfortable and you have all of the tools that you need on a daily basis to be effective, right? So, we can talk a little bit more about that in terms of specific recommendations, but I think these are sort of like the more general ones that I would advise that every person look into if you don't currently have an environment at home where all your technology is in one place and allows you to work. Then I would highly recommend it. So let's talk a little about digital tools, but before I do that, we're going to talk a little bit about COVID-19 and sort of remote work. So there are a gazillion stats, lots of stats out there in terms of what has happened to small businesses and how they've responded to COVID-19 and now our new normal of working remotely or virtually. And I'm going to share a few stats here, and there are a couple others that I'll touch on in a minute that I think are of importance, right? So in a global survey, not just the United States, 63% of people that were surveyed felt that they were more productive working from home than they were in the office. Now, that's quite interesting, right? Because I think as a business owner, as a manager, many of us might feel the anxiety of having employees work at home and wonder if they're actually getting anything done. But what tends to happen in reality is that folks will get up earlier, work longer, and end up putting more hours into it. So one study that I saw even indicated that on average, employees are working about 28 hours longer than they do normally in the office. And so that's almost 4 additional days of work that otherwise would not be happening. So that does present a challenge for some businesses, because now you have to consider controlling overtime. One other stat that is important and is relevant to my industry, 85% of people surveyed felt that they were more reliant on their desktop and laptops than they were when they were in the office. And a big part of that is when you're in the office, you're able to sort of walk to the person next to you, have a conversation, collaborate on something in real time. And it doesn't require necessarily you being in front of a computer to do so. But now we're in this environment, everyone, all the tools that we're using, all the means that we use for communication, that's all digital. And so it's important that that you have that, but more people feel even more reliant. And then finally, 52% of people surveyed, and this is from Lenovo Research, indicated that they will continue to work from home even after COVID. A few other stats that I saw that were quite interesting were that people indicated that they would be willing to receive less pay if they were provided the flexibility to work from home. People also indicated that they would want to have the flexibility to work from home for the rest of their lives. And one survey, that number was as high as 98%. So as a business owner, that does change the paradigm and the playing field for the way that you deal with employees and the type of benefits and flexibility that you want to offer to employees. So just from those key stats, the thing that I came away with that I want to impart to you is that there are pros and cons to remote work, right? While it may introduce challenges for management and maintaining culture, for instance, it does also have that other side where people tend to be more productive. COVID or no COVID, remote work is here to stay. So this is a trend that we had been seeing for many years, and people talk about work from home or virtual work as if it's something new, but we've always had terms like telecommuting, remote employee, things like that. And that has been growing for many years, and COVID has simply accelerated that. And now that people are working from home, I think everyone has an expectation that that's the way business will be conducted going forward. And then the other and very important piece, and what we're going to touch on in a few moments here, is that technology is central to our virtual reality, right? If it were not for tools like Zoom, we would not be having this meeting today because of the threat of COVID, right? And so technology has always been and will continue to be very, very central to remote work or working from home. And in fact, you will see that digital tools have become even more prominent during this pandemic. Businesses that were not previously investing and using technology are now forced to in order to survive, right? So these are some of the realities that we're dealing with today. So this next section here I want to work with you guys on is really meant to be like a high-level overview of like 7 different technology tools or platforms that I think every business should consider. And in particular, now that we're in COVID, these are vital tools for you to have in your operation if you're not currently utilizing them. And so it's not intended necessarily to be a recommendation of any specific tool, but more so just like a high-level touch on some of the tools that are available to you. So let's hop into it. These are the 7 areas that I want to talk about today. If you're not currently engaged with some of these areas, I think this is just intended, as I said, to provide a quick overview of what they are and what the benefits are from utilizing some of these platforms. And then towards the Q&A, if you have specific questions, then we can maybe dive a little bit further. And these are really general to all different kinds of business and not necessarily industry specific. Every industry has its own sort of specialized software, but these we consider to be core to business operations for really any business. So let's talk about group collaboration software. So group collaboration software is really, if you will, a centralized sort of platform that allows your business to communicate, to collaborate amongst the team and sometimes externally. And really the 3 sort of most popular platforms that you see in the marketplace for what we call group collaboration software are G Suite, Microsoft 365, and Zoho. I would say that having worked with small businesses over the last 12 years, these are definitely the top 3 platforms that you see out there. Microsoft 365 and G Suite are really corner the market. They are a big part of the market. And so most businesses are on either one or both of those platforms in some cases. Zoho is sort of a contender. It has a lower price point in terms of entry, but it's also gaining in prominence. And so what are some of the benefits of having this type of platform if you don't currently have one, right? So it combines email, right? So typically you're able to use an email address that is tied to your company domain. And that's important because many businesses sometimes, particularly small businesses and emerging businesses, start out and they may be using a gmail.com or an outlook.com address. And what that does, it sometimes calls into the question sort of the credibility that you may have as a business, because some people may view that as unprofessional. And so if you've had the ability to go ahead and register a domain for your business, these platforms allow you to use that domain when you're sending and receiving email communication with outside parties and also internally. So as you onboard new team members, you can set them up with a company email. File sharing is essential as well to this. Most of these platforms will allow you to store all of your data. So your Word documents, your PDFs, your images, whatever kind of content that you create for your business, you'll be able to store this on the platform and be able to share that with your team members and external collaborators. And most of them now currently offer the ability for you to do so in real time. So if you're in a business where sometimes you create a document or a presentation even, and you need to be able to collaborate with another team member in finalizing the look, the feel, the content, you can do so in real time. So it's very common for my team for us to hop on a meeting, and we're basically working on different parts of the presentation in real time together and providing feedback as well. Platform will also typically include some sort of web meeting functionality, and we'll touch on this a bit more as well. And these are very good tools to have. And so you should consider it, as I mentioned, if you have a personal email account and you want to step up the professionalism that you have. And then also if you're currently, well, I think one key marker of someone who could truly benefit from something like this is if you're storing all your data on your actual computer, then that presents a challenge, because if that computer dies or is stolen, there goes all your important company information, right? And so storing it in the cloud on a platform like one of these sort of helps to eliminate that possibility and gives you continuity as a business, right? So I can just imagine that there were businesses once the pandemic hit whose files were, all their files were on their computer in the office. And in order for them to get any work done, they have to drive to the office, right? And so this is one way to sort of decouple your ability to conduct business from your physical location and do it from anywhere, right? So that's one tool that I think is helpful. Diving in a little further, I think this one is sort of a no-brainer, but I felt it important to bring up. And that's video conferencing and web meeting platforms. And so right now we're on Zoom, right? And this would not be possible if it were not for platforms like Zoom that would give us an opportunity to interact via video virtually, right? So some of the key players in this market, Zoom has really taken over. I think that very early on in the pandemic, they went from maybe 10 million users per day to over 300 million users per day. And that number is still growing. So that just gives you some context in terms of how quickly video conferencing has been adopted in the workplace, and in particular by businesses in order to get through this pandemic. So Zoom, Microsoft Teams, GoToMeeting, these are just three examples of platforms that are out there. There are probably hundreds more that you could pick from. And what I would say in this particular category is that there's really no right or wrong answer, right, in terms of what you choose to use. Most of the tools that are there today allow someone to connect with you just simply through their web browser. They don't necessarily have to download software in order to be a part of a web meeting. And so if you already invested in the platform, or you're considering something that you like, even though people might be unfamiliar with that specific software, they are definitely used to video conferencing now if they weren't doing it before. And so you feel comfortable using whatever is comfortable for you. Doesn't mean you need to go out and buy Zoom just so that you can meet with people. You can use whatever you may already have, right? Okay. And so one of the things that is important to, hold on, are you guys not seeing my screen? Okay. I'm just now getting this notice. All right, what about now? Okay, all right, goodness gracious. All right, close it out. Look at that tech guy, close it out. All right, so let me just kind of, so back to what I was saying here. So we're talking about video conferencing and web meetings. So in terms of the platforms that are out there, like I said, just feel free to use whatever you have. Some of the key benefits of working, with working with a video conferencing or web meeting platform is that it really allows you to do that, group or one-to-one interaction. And in this case, share and present your content collaboratively. Some of the benefits also include saving time and on travel costs and increasing productivity for your team members, right? Data indicates that people feel that using video conferencing allows them to feel more connected with fellow team members, especially in the time like this one where we can't all go into the office. And that is one benefit of working through this time and using these platforms. I think everyone should use a platform, regardless of what platform you pick. You know, video is a must, and I think it's becoming somewhat of an expectation when you interact with others, that video is something that you definitely want to take advantage of. It's also important, I think, if you make presentations frequently as part of your sales process. This is a good way for you to connect with potential customers and be able to, share your ideas, present a proposal, and really, take advantage of this ability. Also, I find that it's helpful for really every aspect of business, training and development with your team employees, or even employee onboarding, right? I can't imagine how I would get through this time if I wasn't able to interview new candidates for our company, new potential employees, without video, because it really just gives you an opportunity to get to know them in a more personal way than a phone call would. And so some of the tips that I just wanted to just quickly share. If you're not a Zoom user, Zoom does allow up to 40-minute group meetings for free. And so that's something you can download. And then finally, if you need to conduct a webinar where you have more control over presenters and content, I would recommend that whatever platform you're on, either upgrade to receive those features or consider using them. All right, next tool, project management software. This one is somewhat unfamiliar to, I think, a lot of people that have not previously used this type of platform, and the adoption of it is still growing within small businesses. And so let me just dive into this quickly. So project management software is really, there are different levels to it. As you can imagine, some people use project management. Think about your day-to-day, right? Where you may have a checklist of things that you go through as you move through your day, of things you need to accomplish. And then on a more professional level, there are people that are professional project managers. They have a very strict sort of methodology in the way that they approach managing internal or customer-facing initiatives. And what you're seeing, particularly in the small business category, is a growing adoption of what we consider to be project management tools, which are really sort of light versions of task management, right? And what these tools do, and here are a few examples, like Asana, Basecamp, Monday.com, Trello. There are a ton more out there. They really allow you to create, if you will, task lists that allow you to track and assign tasks to other team members, so that you're able to sort of keep your finger on the pulse of what needs to get done, what is getting done. And what makes these tools interesting is that they really allow you to put all of the data with those tasks in one place, right? So if you're a business where you have a very standard process around, hey, we signed a customer, and then these are the 15 things that we need to do for our customer next, this is a great tool for you to be able to set up templates of projects so that your team members can execute, and you can see their progress as they're going through it. And it really gives you that additional ability to put data in there. So maybe you are a contractor, for instance, and as your project is progressing, you might be able to upload photos of the project's progress, so that you can have a repository to go back later and see what was done, or be able to share that information with the customer. Typical as well for this tool to allow you to incorporate external parties, right? So if you have a collaborative project, maybe it might be between your organization and someone else, this can act as a central place for you to communicate about those project activities. So you see this a lot in different industries where they may be a joint venture type of situation, and they need to provide a central place for everyone to communicate. So I would strongly consider this if you are, if you have a distributed team and you find yourself using spreadsheets to track, what's happening on a project. Or especially if you have more than one project that you need to be managing and staying on top of, I think that's a really good indicator that these platforms might be helpful to you. So definitely consider those. I want to just kind of stop here for a quick second in case any questions in the chat, Patricia, that maybe anyone has had so far.
So I actually have some
Mm-hmm.
questions, especially about the project management softwares.
Mm-hmm.
Would this also be a good tool to manage potential clients versus actual clients?
I mean, I think it comes down to whatever process you want to build. It can be used for both, right? So for instance, because it's really a task list, right? And and you can structure it essentially however you want to. You could decide that we are going to, as a team, for a prospective client, for instance, create a project in terms of how we work with that person up until the time that the opportunity or the business or whatever closes, so that you can track the activities that need to happen. So you may say, for instance, we have a new potential customer, we got a new sales lead that came in today. Mm-hmm. And using that sales lead, then you can build out the tasks in terms of maybe create first presentation, send, conduct a screening call, whatever it is that you need to do. You can build this out into a list. And this platform can then be used once that customer signs off to then track the onboarding process. Maybe there are 5 or 6 things you need to request or get back from the customer. Maybe there's something you need to produce for the customer before you move to the next step. This is a great way for you to essentially, particularly as a leader and a manager, delegate that activity to someone to complete and track the progress of it as well.
So the reason I ask is, as an attorney and managing my law firm, I have different softwares that are built especially for law firms. Mm-hmm. I haven't really seen other small businesses use that kind of software to manage their contacts, their clients, the stages of the project. Mm-hmm. I have one software that I'm able to track all of my potential clients, where they found me, when they contacted me, who hired me. I can follow up, then I can change the status of that person mm-hmm. to an actual client, where then I'm able to manage, okay, what are the steps I need to take within the client's file? Then I'm able to close them. But I'm not, and I've been interested to see, is there something similar for, a small business like a bakery or,
Yeah, I think this is perfect for those types of businesses that don't necessarily have the level of structure in terms of, like an attorney or a professional would, like an accountant, for example. I think in specific, particularly professional services industries, you do want to lean more towards specialized software that's built for your industry. And so this is more of a general purpose type of software that can be used by any type of business or group that just needs to collaborate, right? A nonprofit could use this, for instance, to manage an upcoming event, right? Or, like to your point, a bakery could use this to manage, day-to-day activities that employees in the bakery need to take, or just even keeping track of, what maintenance tasks might need to happen, for equipment at your bakery. So this is more of a general purpose software that can help you accomplish that.
And that's a very important point I think you made about putting structure into a business. There's a lot of small businesses, and I'm sure you've seen, they start and they just start doing without taking the time to put in the policies and procedures to have that structure to be able to build upon, to grow effectively. So
yeah, correct. And yeah, and I agree with you. Like, this tool helps to structure your thinking about how you engage in your business processes. And so I've seen people utilize this to essentially build standard operating procedures for the most common activities or most common tasks that they do in their business. And I think that it allows you to get the freedom, right, as a business owner, to be able to take the time to set everything up ahead of time, so that when you onboard a new employee, it's already built, right? So you can literally template out your most common activity. And then whenever that activity needs to happen, you just simply create a new list for that new activity, and that person can execute and you can manage and track. So this is a good way to buy yourself some time.
So I do see two questions.
Mhm.
Chat, the first one, can you also use these platforms for customer relationships, or is there something you can recommend?
Yeah, so I mean, you could, if you have a very limited sort of like budget that you're working with. Later on, I will touch on a CRM tool, which is a customer relationship management software, and that's more specific to, as you pointed out, Patricia, the process of keeping track of customer information, sales opportunities, or leads. That's more of a specialized package, but at the same time, it's general, so that any type of business could use it.
Okay. And can you also talk about online integration? What are your thoughts about Amazon Web Services?
Oh my goodness. All right, that's a big question. So I'll take that in two parts. So online integration. So I think what a lot of people are seeing right now is that there are all these different tools, right? And I think that you can actually go too far in picking too many tools, right? I do want to caution on that as well. And it's important that when you're selecting software, that you find ones that connect with each other, so it eliminates the amount of double entry or double work that you have to do as a business. And if it already integrates with something that you're using, it's more valuable because it's saving you time, right? So I would just kind of respond to the integration part of that question in that way. Amazon Web Services is a very, very large portion of Amazon's cloud business, and they offer a lot of different features and capabilities that I would say that the typical small business isn't really going to use. I tend to see it more used in mid-sized to larger companies. Though there are specific tools that can be helpful. So let me just touch on one, for instance. Amazon has a platform on their web services, and they have well over 100 services as part of Amazon Web Services that allows you to build a contact center on demand, right? So if you're the type of business where you're receiving a lot of inbound calls, like a call center type of environment, they do have tools that allow you to essentially build a call center system and distribute calls to your different agents, right? And that's something that's available there that a small business could potentially use. Amazon Web Services is not the most friendly for someone who's not incredibly tech savvy. So I tend to steer small businesses towards other types of solutions.
Okay. And just because I really like these discussions, when you start talking about CRMs, can you also talk about maybe how to integrate a CRM into a project management system?
Yeah, we can talk about that for sure. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. All right. No problem. So moving on, and I have, I think, 3-4 more of these to go. So before we move into the next section, unified communications. So this is an industry buzzword, right? When an IT professional or a tech person says unified communications, and here I have an icon of a phone, because I mean, tangibly, that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about voice communication primarily. And the unified part comes in because there are other related communication tools like fax or text that tend to be integrated into these platforms, right? So just to touch on a couple, you've seen some of these names. I'm sure you may use some of these names. These are just 4 examples of some of the industry leaders that are typical within small business, but there are tons of options. In many cases, even your phone services provider like Comcast or AT&T may offer something like this. And so what a unified communication platform really does, it allows you to streamline your inbound and outbound voice communication. So in a standard environment, when you're in your office, you're sitting there, you have a phone on your desk, the phone rings, someone answers the phone. There's a flow to the way that you handle inbound communication. Maybe someone might call you, and you have a call tree, for instance, where it rings the first, rings the receptionist, and the receptionist doesn't answer, then this person answers. And so what these platforms do is that they really move that type of feature into the cloud and away from the office. The industry term that a lot of people will use is voice over IP, right? And what that means is that you're able to communicate really on any device via voice communication. Okay, and so what we're seeing, especially now during the pandemic, is that there are companies that were used to all of their voice communication flowing through the office. And now, because you can't do that anymore, you're not opening, your office isn't open, all of your employees are working from home or wherever they find themselves. And so how do you continue that call flow? How do you continue that communication that is coming into your company and needs to go out from your company in a professional manner, right? And what has happened, and many businesses, particularly small businesses, have done, is they may forward their phones from the office to one person that answers all the incoming calls. Or they may have just told their customers, hey, just call me on this cell phone number, right? And so what happens there now is you're taking your normal business communication and bringing it into sort of your personal communication world. And these platforms allow you to essentially set up a phone system and distribute calls to your employees as if they were sitting at the desk in the office. And it also allows them to make calls through the system to customers as if they were sitting in the office. So what that means is that on the other end, the customer is seeing your company phone number and not the personal phone number of an employee, right? And that's important for your own sort of like quality control as a business, right? Because if people are calling employees directly, you may not know that certain calls are coming into the business. If there's no way for you to have essentially like your receptionist function continue, where someone is kind of fielding everything that comes in and distributing accordingly, customers can feel frustrated that because they can't reach you, or now they have 4 or 5 different numbers that they have to remember or store just to be able to reach one of your employees. And I think that that takes away from the professionalism of the business. So these platforms allow you essentially to make and receive inbound, outbound calls as if they were from your business. The way it's done typically is through a mobile app. So you can download a mobile app on your device, sign in as a user, and then be able to communicate with businesses. So I think this is a really good platform for companies to consider if right now, as I said, you're using a personal cell number to communicate, or you need to be in touch with customers on the go. Like right now, for instance, we're working heavily with an early childhood center, right? And they have teachers in this early childhood center. And obviously those teachers need to interact with parents. But as a teacher, do you really want to give out your cell phone number to all these parents, right? And so this is a way for that communication to flow through a business number that's specific to the business. The system that this client is on allows them to text right from the business number. So a lot of people like to communicate via text. And so this allows you to text back and forth, receive images as well from that business number, and not having to give out your personal number, right? So that's key. It allows you to have voicemail. It allows you to transfer calls. So I could be here in my home office today and someone calls my extension on my phone system, and I can then forward that call or transfer that call to a team member who's sitting halfway across Miami. So these are some of the capabilities that are part of this type of platform, and I think it's helpful to small business. Another key piece of the puzzle, e-signature, right? And I think, for the real estate professionals or the lawyers, they're very familiar with these types of platforms. So here are just 2 examples. There are quite many others. And really these platforms allow you to receive, sign-offs, signatures on documents, particularly if you're dealing with agreements in your onboarding workflow for customers, you're signing a contract with the customer. This is one way to help you speed up the process of getting that document signed. In a pre-COVID world, you might be in front of the customer and have the ability to have them sign off right in front of you. And then usually there's the next step of then having to scan the document and store the document. These platforms essentially speed that whole process up by giving the customer an online portal to go ahead and sign off on the documents and the agreements that you've prepared. And so the advantage here is that once you've set it up and you've sent it out to the customer, they sign off, you immediately have a place where you can go back and refer to that signed contract. If ever there's a question of when was the contract signed or what were the terms of the agreement, this is a great place, great platform for you to store that type of data in. And the attorneys on the line could probably attest to this. These are considered to be as good as someone physically signing a document in front of you using ink, right? And so these will stand up in court if ever there's a dispute. So definitely consider this type of platform if your business relies heavily on signed agreements or contracts. And obviously right now in COVID, it's hard to get actual sign-offs in person. So instead of shuttling a document via courier over to a customer, these platforms can help you eliminate that and speed up your process of getting a signed contract and getting business done, right? Okay. Another platform, and I know I'm running through a lot here, but this is also key and I think important to really any small business, pandemic or no pandemic. Many of us communicate by email, and email can be very overwhelming. In fact, a lot of people report fatigue just going through email, right? And what happens a lot is you get emails that could literally have been a really short conversation, or could have been a text or some other shorter form of convo. And so you're starting to see in the small business space, and I think it's helpful during the pandemic, these sort of like real-time communication platforms. And you'll see some ads for platforms like Slack, Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts Chat, and there are a few others, but these are the more dominant ones. And what they really do for you as a business, they allow you to have more one-to-one, real-time and group communication with your team members. So if you think back to the early days of the internet, if you've been around for a while, you will remember chat rooms, right? And discussion boards. And the way that those are usually broken out, they're broken out by topic or area of interest. And so you would enter this chat room and you'd have a conversation with someone. And so what this does for your business, it allows you to have that same sort of communication segmentation, right? So you can, as a business, create different chat rooms or channels, we call them, for your business and communicate with the team members that are relevant to that. So you may have a marketing department, you may have a sales team, you may have customer service. And so this allows your team members to exchange, real-time communication on things that, may not need to be emails. It allows them to post content. So if, let's say, someone is on site and they're dealing with a specific customer service issue that is visual in nature, they may be able to take a picture, post it into the channel, and have team members respond and collaborate with them on that specific issue that they're facing. And so what this does, it really just reduces all of this back and forth on email in many respects within your team. It helps speed up communication within your team. And then it also acts as like a repository or a database for prior conversations that you may have had. So here at Invisio, for instance, we have a technology or tech group chat within our company where if one of my technicians encounters an issue, they can post about it, other people can opine, provide input. And if we needed to figure out, well, what did you say 2 years ago when customer X was having this problem? We can just do a search by date, by keyword, by anything like that, and be able to go back to that information. Instead of having that stored in a document somewhere, this is more of a way to search that prior conversation and derive insight. So it's a form of knowledge management that I think can be helpful for teams where they need to quickly exchange information, but also might be able to go back and refer to something that happened contemporaneously, right? So this is a growing part of small business tech. I see a lot of companies adopting this. And as I pointed out here, Microsoft Teams and Google Hangouts Chat are here. So if you're already on Microsoft 365 or you're already on Google G Suite for Business, these tools are already available to you in many cases. And so you can, if you're not currently using them, quickly adopt them. And there is a little bit of overlap between those tools and maybe even video conferencing, because Microsoft Teams doubles as a video conferencing web meeting, but also as a team, a group chat, instant messaging platform as well. So helpful tool if you're not currently adopting it. Any questions that I can probably hop on while we're going through? All right. Okay. And then here, finally, I'll touch on CRM. So CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Patricia mentioned this earlier. And really what a CRM is and what it does is allows you to track your customer information. So first off, phone number, address, all of that basic information. But it also allows you to keep track of your interactions with your customers, and also allows you to track potential business opportunities with those customers, right? And activities that need to happen in order to realize those business activities. So some of the key players in this market that you'll see, these are, like I said, just 4. There's so many more. And what I would recommend is that you basically trial a couple, to see which one suits your flow of business. And there's lots of information out there to help you make a selection in this category. But it really just provides a central database for customer contact, allow you to manage activities and team performance. So if you're a business where you may have team members or salespeople that need to also be a part of your business opportunity workflow, this is a great tool. So I'll give you a very tangible example of the way that works. Let's say you have a new customer, right, or potential customer that calls you or maybe fills out a web form. You will be able to integrate that web form information to come right into your CRM in most cases, and it creates a new record for that potential customer. From that point, many CRM platforms allow some form of automation, right? So once that record is created, then it may then create a set of tasks, back to our project management question that you had, Patricia. It may then create a set of tasks for your team to then follow up on. So the first thing might be place follow-up call to customer, conduct a qualification of whether or not the customer is a good fit for our business. Once that's done, then send the customer an agreement. So it helps you to essentially build these workflows around your sales process, which are very key. And it gives your team a place so everyone can see what's happening. In particular, if you're a manager, each person on your sales team or each person that's part of your selling process, you can see what they're doing. You can see how many phone calls they made if they're tracking it. You can see when was the last time they emailed the customer and what did they say when they emailed the customer if you're tracking that. And these platforms allow you to do that. There's usually a very close tie-in with these systems into email platforms, right? So if you're on Microsoft 365 or if you're on G Suite, most of these platforms will have a plugin that shows up in your window, in your web browser alongside your email, so that you can basically open an email, you can see directly from your email the customer contact information, phone number, email, last time contacted, are we working any current sales opportunities with that customer? And so it helps to streamline that whole process by really bringing all that information into one place for you. So that's what the CRM does. And there are people that spend their time consulting on how to set up and use a CRM, and there are varying levels of complexity. Some will say that Salesforce is perhaps one of the more complex tools, but there are others that are very simple, very easy to get started with. Most will have mobile apps, so while you're on the go, you can also refer to this customer contact information. And that's very helpful if you have a field sales team, for instance. People that are out in the field meeting customers and having to update information about sales opportunities or activities. I think these are really good tools for you to review, consider, and incorporate into your business.
So I actually know of a couple of small businesses that use QuickBooks for this function. That's how they keep track of their current clients. That's how they keep track of a client that did business with them a year ago and it's time for them to do that contract. What would be the advantage of using one of these platforms? And
right, so yeah, so like for instance, QuickBooks is, you can use it just to know who your customers are, but it doesn't really give you much insight in terms of, activities, right, related to the customer. So, if you are the type of business where you know your customer is, but then you also need to track, how often you're touching that customer. This is a good platform to do that, because it can really just set up your activity and say, remind me every 3 months, or every 3 months I'm going to call this customer just to check in. And that might be a way for you to build upsell opportunity, right? If you're using this type of database correctly, you not only know who the customer is, but you might know what they've purchased in the past, right? And so that gives you insight in terms of what you might want to sell them in the future, right? So, I'm looking at Jeff right now, right? And so if Jeff sold somebody, new windows 10 years ago, right? And you think about what is the average time that someone stays in a house, for instance, it might be a good time for him to consider, hey, I sold that person windows 10 years ago. I wonder if they moved or they're planning to sell their house, right? And just reach out to them and make contact again, right? So there's just a lot of different business cycles that you can track with a CRM that you can't accomplish with a simple, contact database of just who the customers are. Also, marketing, there's a strong marketing tie-in here as well, right? So if you segment your customers in your database by maybe size of business or frequency of purchase or whatever factors you want to track, then you're able to then build marketing campaigns using this customer database to be able to continue to, either it's call or email your customers to stay in front of them.
And we actually have a couple of folks on the line that are in the nonprofit world. Mm-hmm. So how would something like this benefit them?
So nonprofits tend to have specialized software, but if they don't, I do believe Salesforce, in fact, does offer a very good program through TechSoup for nonprofits, where you can get the software to a low rate. This is helpful for donor management, right? So if you know who your donors are in a given year and what level they give at, you can segment your donors by, type, these are my A donors, my B donors, my C donors. You can see that someone gave 3 years ago and hasn't given recently. And those are the ways that you can use this type of software to help your nonprofit raise money and keep in contact with its supporters and donors.
Okay, great. So we're actually coming to the end of our online meeting. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us before?
Yeah, so let me hop into one other thing quickly. I'll do it very, very quickly because this is a very pertinent topic, particularly right now with COVID. So these are just 5 simple strategies that I wanted to share with everyone for keep maintaining security, especially now that you're working from home. You may not be on your usual office network with all the security that's there. And you may have employees who are working on their own computers at home. So just quickly, these are 5 key things that help every business stay away from the cyber criminals. Install antivirus protection on any computer that you're using, very important. I would recommend a paid product. The free ones are good, but they usually are not the most up-to-date, and they don't give you all of the advanced features to help protect you. Utilize a password manager. Many of us use the same password on every different website. That is the way that you will end up getting hacked. I guarantee you, if you use the same password everywhere and one of those passwords gets leaked, then there's a strong chance they're going to end up in your email. They're going to end up in some other system that you use. Don't do that. Third thing is enable multi-factor authentication. Most people are used to this with their bank, right? You sign into the bank website and they may say, we're going to text you a code, enter the code. Most software that you use, including the ones I just recommended, have some type of multi-factor authentication feature. Use it because it will help prevent attack or a breach in the event that a password gets leaked or someone learns of your password, right? Next thing is train everyone on email safety. And by that, I mean, since COVID, phishing attacks have gone up like 1,000-fold because the hackers are at home hanging out just like you are. And so you see a lot more emails that are attempting to get you to give up your password, right? So it may be, hey, you just received a new invoice, or, oh, here's this new COVID-19 grant program that your business should be looking at. So training your employees on email safety and being able to recognize suspicious email is very important during this time because those types of attacks have gone up. And then finally, set up a cloud data backup. So if you're not going to have your data stored in a Dropbox or in Google Drive or in OneDrive or one of those systems, and you have them on your computer, so definitely set up a cloud backup. So in the event that you get infected or you lose that computer, you can always recapture your data and continue your business operation. So those are 5 things I just want to touch on quickly. I know we're at the end. So if there's any more questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Can you share your contact screen or your contact information? Okay, great.
Yeah, so and my personal email address is kmichael@invisio.com. So, or kevin@invisio.com. Feel free to reach out to me there. And this is all the different ways you can find us.
And
a quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
Kevin, good to see you. Thank you for this wealth of information. It's so great. I'm in the market right now for a very good, for a project management software. One that is user-friendly. I've got guys on the field who are not too computer savvy, but one that can link us in terms, not only in communication, but in tasks as well. Task assignment. And we're looking at Microsoft Team. I've used Basecamp before, but with other people. What would you think for my line of business? Because again, my guys are not computer savvy. I've got installers on the field that we need to remain in communication with, more task-based along with communication.
Right. Yeah. So for your business, right? Because you're in the construction industry for the most part. There are specialized tools that are there, so I would definitely want to maybe have you take a look at those first. But given that as you said, your team members aren't super savvy, you may want to consider like the general purpose tools that I talked about earlier, like an Asana or a Trello. Trello is a good one actually, because there are some platforms that do tasks, like task lists, right? And then there are others that kind of combine that concept with a workflow, right? So if in your case, think about the way that your business works as a construction team. Usually you have your quoting phase, then you have your installation, inspection. So it follows like these different silos in your process, right? And so Trello is kind of like a card feature. So you can drag and drop, all right, this is now in this phase, right? And that's a very simple visual way for your team members to see what needs to happen. So it's like a combination of a task list and a stack of cards in a way.
Okay.
Right. So I'd probably recommend you take a look at that as a potential, easy option to use if you're not going to go with something that's very specific to construction.
Okay. Thank you.
So Kevin, if you can go back and share again your contact screen with us. And if you can put in your email into the chat, because we do have some requests as to how to get in contact with you and also how to get a copy of the presentation. So
yeah, I can definitely share that with you guys. Let me see here. All right. You should still see my contact info up. Do you see that now?
Right. It's back up now.
Okay. All right, cool. Yes. So definitely feel free to reach out to me. I'll answer any questions you have, and I can share a copy of this presentation for anyone that just wants to review it and look at the different tool options.
Great. So I hope everyone enjoyed today's presentation. I know I learned a lot and I enjoyed it. We hope to bring you some more really great info on how to build your business and how to grow your business. If you have any questions for Kevin, please be sure to reach out to him directly. I'm sure he'll be happy to speak to anyone in this chat today about how he can help you grow your business and how to structure more effectively. And honestly, I've had my business, actually Kevin helped me structure my email system and my at Elise Law Firm Gmail. I'm not very tech savvy, but he was able to get us to a point where we were able to function effectively online. And I encourage everyone to really take the time. I know as small businesses, as small Haitians, American businesses, sometimes it's hard for us to understand the importance of really putting some structure and procedures in place. And it's really important for us to do that, especially now with COVID. So take advantage of the information that Kevin has shared, take advantage of him making himself available to us, and reach out to him, ask him questions. Maybe he'll be able to help you in your business restructure so that you are able to grow effectively and grow stronger. So thank you, Kevin, for taking the time to being with us today. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. And we will see you next month during our next breakfast event with the Chamber. So I hope everyone has a great day, and this presentation will be shared online. So if you want to share it with anyone else, please make sure to do so.
Good job, Pat. Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job, buddy. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Well done, guys. Thanks.